For years I put off playing Half-Life for no reason in particular, but the announcement of a new Half-Life game got me in the mood to finally play it. When I play an older game that's been hyped up by everyone under the sun, I try and keep my expectations low. After all, Half-Life is over 20 years old now, so it's bound to have aged a little. I'll tell you what though, right from the start it got its hooks in me. So let's take a long look at the original Half-Life from start to finish. Right, so let's start at the start. Half-Life begins with you being brought to work in a tram. We're given the basic facts about Gordon Freeman. 27 years old, PhD, scientist, full-time job, overachiever. This tram ride is basically a way to show you what Black Mesa is all about. You see scientists going about their day doing science, big machines doing this and that, G-Man's down there at some point. I really like this part. In my opinion, it does go on a bit long, but it really brings you into the world of Half-Life. You see Black Mesa and all the other employees doing what it is they do in a realistic manner. A little later on, you see offices with individual nameplates on the doors and a locker room where everyone has their own locker. I will say though, they could have done with more than 3 character models for the scientists. But even Gordon's got a locker with a picture of his wife? Daughter? Anyway, this kind of design always draws me into a world. It echoes the immersive sims of old, like Thief and System Shock, where the worlds are designed to be realistic and livable, rather than just as levels for the player to play in. So eventually, after walking around for a while, Gordon has to go do his job, which in this case is pushing a yellow crystal into a laser. For whatever reason, this opens up a portal that allows aliens to invade, and invade they do. You escape the room and find the iconic crowbar and eventually a pistol. There's no other goal right now other than to get to safety, but I really like this part too. The whole section is set up more like a horror game than an action adventure. You can't really fight back, so you have to try and avoid enemies. The whole world is collapsing around you. Pretty tense at times, especially when you're not expecting a headcrab to jump at you from the other side of the room. It all comes together to create a super immersive experience. If only the rest of the game could live up to its first impressions. So like I said, the main goal is to get to safety. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with Black Mesa's layout, so I don't know how to get out. This leads to the next hour or so of feeling like I'm just sort of bumbling around until I find the next thing to do. Eventually, there will be a big tentacle monster, but before that, there's an awful lot of running through corridors and clambering through vents. Along the way, you meet several other characters, and I use that word lightly. Said characters are scientists and security guards, and they serve exactly one purpose, and that is opening the next door. These folks are one of the biggest contributors to destroying that immersion that the game had previously built up so well. They only react to the world around them when their script tells them to. They'll react to Gordon in completely unrealistic ways.
Hello. Well, gotta do that grunt money.
Jesus Christ, man, are you okay?
I suspected this could happen, but the administrator just would not listen.
Excuse me. What? And another thing is that they all fucking look the same. Seriously, 3 models for the scientists and 1 for security guards? Couldn't have done something like have them randomly generated? It really takes me out of the game when I meet the same 4 guys in every new area. They've even got the same voice for fuck's sake. I honestly would have enjoyed the game a lot more if you only met 2 or 3 people along the way. You could replace these guys with key cards and it wouldn't make a difference, except it would make sense for them to be there. Just how did they all manage to survive so long when Black Mesa is being overrun by aliens in the military? Perhaps it's because the soldiers they sent in are all brain dead? This is a good opportunity to talk about the enemy AI in general, and not just the human soldiers. They're all pretty dumb. They have no tactics other than to occasionally crouch behind cover. Soldiers will pretty much just run right into your bullets. This does at least make them distinct from the aliens who will run away for a sec, only to turn around and then try to blast you with lightning. Having the enemy NPCs act like such idiots does take a lot of fun out of the firefights. You never have to think too much about what you're doing, you can just run and shoot for the most part without any need for strategy. But you know what? It's early in the game. We haven't even got to the big tentacle monster and the aliens haven't sent out their big guns. Maybe it's just easy right now because it's the start of the game. Let's continue. I haven't even talked about the moment-to-moment gameplay much because there isn't a lot to it. Up until now, puzzles have basically just been solved by pushing a box to reach a higher platform or finding the guy who can open the door. One positive thing to note, there are puzzles and side routes to explore that reward the player with health packs and ammo. I like this. It encourages exploration and it makes sense you'd find those kinds of things locked away in storage rooms. It's also nice that the rewards are good because the actual puzzles are boring as fuck and often tedious. Gordon moves around like he's on fucking roller skates, so pushing boxes isn't an exact art. They'll slide all around the place and jumping from one to the other can be a right pain. But despite this, 2 hours into the game I was still enjoying myself. The enemies aren't tedious this early in the game, and the guns are pretty fun to use. The shotgun and the assault rifle just sound so powerful. I was looking forward to seeing what the alien army had in store, finding out why the military invaded, who G-Man was, and how I was going to stop this whole invasion. But it all starts to fall apart around the time you find the big tentacle monster. So you stumble upon a test chamber with big tentacles trying to kill everything around them. There's a test fire button and 3 lights for oxygen, power and fuel. The button doesn't work, so it seems natural you need to turn on the oxygen, power and fuel. So you go to the next room and a guard tells you to be quiet in case it hears you, like it doesn't obviously know you're there. But there's no other way to go except straight through the chamber with the beast in it. There are 3 levels, which you descend with ladders while trying not to get killed. You can shoot the tentacles, but they only stay down for a few seconds, so there'll be no time at all before you waste all your ammo. The best strategy seems to just try and run past them. Good luck though, they're out for blood and one hit's instant death. I ended up just jumping to the bottom level to get past them. Good chunk of fall damage is still better than dying. This way leads to some sort of big shaft you ride a lift to get down, only the lift breaks and you need to use a ladder. And that is not a pleasant experience in Half-Life. Gordon doesn't climb them so much as he just floats up or down. Getting on and off ladders can be a lot harder than it really should be. After some more trouble with ladders, you end up in a room with the generator suspended way up in the air, and you get the power back on. This does not fix that lift from before, so you still need to ladder your way back up. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I couldn't see any way to get off it without taking major fall damage. Unfortunately, the power coming back on causes this puddle to become electrified, and you have to do one of the worst puzzles in any game. Got to move these boxes so you can jump on them and then over the puddle. Thanks to the game's slippery controls, getting those boxes to that puddle is a nightmare. Just watch as they slide all over the place. Thanks to the awful platforming, trying to judge the distance of your jump is even worse. Most of the time it doesn't even feel like I'm touching the water, but I died here more times than I'd like to admit. At least if I hadn't taken so much fall damage before, I could have tanked the hit and slid on by. Still would have got majorly fucked by the tentacle boss though. I need to turn on the oxygen, and that means going back through that room without taking a single hit. It's ridiculous how ineffective your weapons are here. The tentacles barely stay down long enough to get to the next ladder, but I did it, and then progressed onto the big fan room. The only way to get out apparently is to be launched up to the ceiling and crawl through some vents, where you'll be immediately ambushed by head crabs, draining even more of your health. Finally you can kill the beast. If you can make it through that fucking room a 3rd time with probably less ammo than you had before. Also, for no good reason, you can't just jump through this window onto the 2nd floor into the room with the kill the big alien button. Finally, it's fucking dead, and you can go down the tunnel and be almost immediately killed by fall damage again. I get that you're meant to fall onto the table full of medkits, but they could have actually put it right beneath the pipe that you're not expecting to fall through. That's a recurring theme for the next part of this level though. You're in an underground tunnel system that's falling, and if you're not careful, it will fall on you and instantly kill you several times. I know there's a warning noise that plays before that happens, but it's not obvious if something is going to fall on top of you, the floor is going to break, or something else entirely will explode. Continuing, you need to return power to the tram set. In doing so, you get to blow up a giant alien with a power generator. That's fucking cool. Then you hop in the tram and smash through a bunch of concrete barriers. What the hell is this thing made of? The following level has you riding the tram while dodging bullets and trip mines set by the military. Still don't know why they're here and setting up turrets and mines, but I can't wait to find out. Then there's a puzzle where a wooden bar is blocking the tram you need to use, even though they can destroy concrete, but whatever. Let's forget how immersion breaking that is. I guess we're going on video game logic now. There are 2 guys firing at you from above, but the stairs to get up to them are blocked by boxes that are too high to jump. I felt pretty clever when I figured out the solution was to move the tram to the barrier and use it to jump over. Then I felt pretty fucking dumb when a little while later I found out that wasn't the solution, and you're meant to jump those impossibly high boxes. Indeed, the game expects you to know about crouch jumping, a mechanic that hasn't been mentioned and has never been needed up until now. Basically, if you crouch in the air you can jump over things that are usually too big. Technically, I had done this before to get into vents, but it didn't make sense to think that crouching down in the air would allow me to mount obstacles. I understand that Gordon is lifting his knees to his chest when he does it, and that's how it works, but crouching feels like Gordon is just making himself smaller, if that makes any sense. A tutorial would have helped here, or having this be a necessary mechanic before now would have been good too. And yes, I know about the tutorial, we'll get to that later. It's around this time the game gets a little absurd. You have to shoot signs next to the railway to change tracks ahead of you. That can't have been the intended design Black Mesa's engineers had in mind. Stuff like this makes Half-Life feel more gamey than like a real world, like what that initial level did such a good job of building up. Having the military install turret bunkers and rocket launcher stations only adds to this. It's totally ridiculous. Why are they out for blood, and why do they only want Gordon dead? None of the other scientists get killed. It turns out the answer isn't what you expect. You see, Gordon killed their buddies.
So, who is this guy, Freeman? They say he was at Ground Zero. Science team? You think he was responsible? Sabotage, maybe? Yeah, maybe. All I know for sure is he's been killing my buddies. Oh yeah, he'll pay. He will definitely pay.
Their buddies that shot first without asking any questions. This game would have been over so quickly if they just asked Gordon to come along. He's a fucking scientist and he wants to get out of Black Mesa to escape the aliens. They could have just asked, but no, they had to be fucking idiots about it. But anyway, Gordon has to escape on his own, and the only way forward is up some stairs and past some lasers that'll detonate a shit ton of TNT if you touch them. It bothers me you can't just blow it up from a safe distance like every other explosive in the game, but I guess you could explain it by saying it would have destroyed the room and Gordon would have been stuck. Either way, you're forced into a terrible puzzle where you have to do more crouch jumping, and you have to be really spot on with it. Not only is the jump just barely big enough to make, if you don't immediately move to the right, Gordon will slide into the lasers. This section really highlights how bad the controls are. Getting back down that flight of stairs is so annoying. Gordon doesn't take just one step, he practically leaps forward, and being on stairs will cause him to slide down. It should not have taken this many attempts to get past these lasers. But back to the plot. The lasers are guarding the way to a rocket launching room. No codes or anything needed here, just a big red button in the middle of the room, so easy a baby could do it. And since it's the only thing to do here, you do it. You just launch a rocket for no reason. Is it a missile? Who knows? Is it aimed at anything? Who cares? Launching it opens a blast door that lets you progress onto some flooded tunnels. They start with a real dumb puzzle too. I fired at this cage of barrels underwater, threw grenades at them, and nothing worked. After bumbling around trying to figure out how to cross this gap, they floated up out of their cage to help me. How kind of them. Do you remember when I said that shooting signs to switch rails and big-ass rocket launchers were a sign this game was getting absurd? Well, this chapter is where it goes full-on what the fuck. Ninjas. Obviously, the military has a squad of backflipping ninjas that can turn invisible. They kidnap you and say you're going to be taken in for questioning.
I see it. Alright, we got him. Where are we taking this Freeman guy? Topside for questioning. What the hell for? We got him. Let's kill him now. And if they find the body? Body? What body?
This is the first time they've done anything logical. Oh, never mind. They're just going to throw you into a trash compactor instead. Not even going to kill you first. Fucking amazing. Said compactor happens to be located next to Black Mesa's meat processing plant. As dumb as that sounds, I actually enjoyed this part. You have to jump from conveyor belt to conveyor belt to avoid getting dumped into vats of radioactive waste. Not only is that just inherently fun, it raises questions about Black Mesa. Why have they got this whole thing in their facility? It makes you say, what the fuck? But in an inquisitive way that actually adds a little to the world building. Unfortunately, it also means more platforming, which means a lot of quick saving. Just look at him sly. I'm not even holding forward in this clip after I jump. But after that weirdness, you get to see the real shit Black Mesa's up to in their science labs. This section is one of the best in the game because it's actually memorable. They've got alien soldiers locked up, they're doing experiments on them, they have this surgical room, which is just two big spinning blades. On the one hand, this does more to make you question Black Mesa's true motives and hints that there's more to them than meets the eye. On the other hand, this surgical machine is real dumb. What purpose could it possibly have other than decapitations and below-the-knee leg amputation? Half-Life keeps trying to walk the line between believable world and over-the-top cartoony weirdness, but I don't think it achieves a good balance. The surgical room looks like something out of a Bond movie parody. This section does end with a fun puzzle though. There's a laser pointed at a wall and they lower this metal sheet to test it, to protect the wall. Why wouldn't the metal sheet just be down all the time? And you've got to move this box under it to block the metal sheet so the laser blows a hole in the wall. This puzzle is quick and easy, but it makes you feel like a badass, and I like that. The hole you blast it leads out to the surface. I was actually excited about this at first because I thought I was near the end of the game. Like I finally escaped Black Mesa and can go on to freedom. But no, you're just in another part of Black Mesa, so it's no more exciting than going from one room to another. And then the helicopter. Oh fuck, the helicopter pissed me off something serious. At first I thought it was on my side because it appeared to be attacking the soldiers on the bridge, but no, it was just trying to kill a single alien and went way overboard with it and wants me dead too. Seriously guys, you could have just asked me to stop. I'm just a scientist, I just want to go home. But this chopper really wants you dead, to the point that it stalks you around Black Mesa. It stalks you through this horrible minefield section too. I did not like this part. It's not immediately obvious there are pathways through the walls around it because they all just look like rocks. At first I stumbled upon one by accident thinking I'd just find a stash of weapons, but it was actually the way I was meant to go. That's cool and all, but it felt totally unnatural and just added to that feeling that I have no idea where I'm supposed to be going at any time. Surely Gordon has no idea. He's almost certainly never been to this part of the labs, and I can't imagine he's worked at Black Mesa for that long, given he's only 27. So at least we're on the same page. But anyway, there isn't much to do here. You find the button for this escape hatch and go down it. It leads to a cliffside that really highlights three things I thoroughly dislike about Half-Life's combat. You're ambushed almost constantly. Coming out of this sewer you have no cover and no way of knowing there's a turret to your right that will immediately open fire. The enemy AI is just awful. Thanks to having low health, I had to cheese my way through this part, but that can be easily done because enemies don't react to being shot. They only move if they can see you. And the third thing is that the game isn't generous enough with its health packs. Thanks to the helicopter's fire being very accurate, I was very low on health at this point. There's no way for me to get through without cheesing, and that made this encounter just that much worse. I'm all prepared for people to start calling me a whiny millennial right now, but regenerating health would have helped this game a lot. Most of the time, I was conservative when it came to gunfights because there's no guarantee I'll have enough health to survive the next one. So even when I had a lot of health, I didn't want to go in guns blazing, and that led to a lot of boring fights. If I had regenerating health, even if it only regened halfway, the designers would have been able to design fights around that, instead of either making encounters that are unfairly difficult or too easy based on having no health or loads of health. Anyhow, at this point you get to destroy the helicopter and progress. In this next part of the base, Black Mesa has surrounded many of its buildings with mines. Why? Who knows? Who are they trying to keep out? Or who are they expecting to try and get in? We'll never know. But the point is, you need to get over these minefields, and the only way to do that is to blow them up. There's no way to know where the mines are, and no cool gadgets or anything that'll let you see them. You literally just have to fire blindly at the ground until you're pretty sure you got them all. Oh, and they incorporated a sniper's nest here too. This is the second one in the game, but the first one is easy to avoid. This one, oh fuck me. So the snipers are really accurate, and can kill you in just a few shots. You need to crawl under a wire fence here and blow up power transformers on the other side, but the sniper will kill you if you're not quick enough. At first I thought I was doing the puzzle wrong. It doesn't seem like you can kill the snipers because they're behind walls, so guns are no good. There's no character model of a sniper, so you have nothing to fire on except his gun poking out. It turns out though, grenades will do the trick, but it's easy enough to throw them too far into the nest and miss. I ended up using the rocket launcher here, and it still took 3 fucking hits. It just feels like the game is trying to get me to waste all my resources. Not much happens in the game after this for a while. You go through an explosives depot covered in trip mines, and touching one means instant death. Thankfully this section is very short. You do get a cool alien gun in here with infinite ammo though, it fires homing bullets. Actually, you get 2 other pretty cool guns too. There's this laser you can charge up and some sort of spiral laser. Unfortunately, Half-Life's design made it so I almost never used them. The infinite ammo homing gun isn't as powerful as the assault rifle or revolver. The other 2 laser guns are mad powerful, but ammo is scarce, so I ran into that whole better save this for the big boss problem. Actually, despite the variety in weapons, I ended up using almost nothing but the assault rifle. It's accurate, even over long distances, kills most enemies quickly, and even has a grenade launcher attachment that can one-shot almost everything. It doesn't help that ammo for it is plentiful, so there's almost no reason to swap to another weapon. Except, of course, when you need to fight helicopters that can only be destroyed with rocket launchers. Speaking of which, the game sets up a cool boss fight after the explosives depot. Another helicopter comes at you, but you're in an open courtyard. It's dropping soldiers down and you find this big ass turret, so it sounds like this might actually be a fun boss fight. But no, This helicopter doesn't fire on you, and it only drops down 2 guys at a time. At this late into the game, 2 regular soldiers are not a challenge. The big turret is just for blowing a door open, so never mind, this was some pretty pointless build-up. After a particularly annoying walkthrough event full of ticks, you get to do another turret section. My god, is it boring. Literally just stand there and shoot weak enemies as they spawn. Could have just done that with my regular weapons. But something you can't kill with regular weapons is the next boss. He comes at you in a parking lot. Thankfully, he's distracted by Range Rovers, who he's actually very easy to get away from. The only way to kill him is with this handy-dandy airstrike launching station someone left just sitting here. And I'm not entirely sure the airstrike is even what kills him. Sure, it landed on him, but then he expands and explodes. I like to believe he was so embarrassed at being hurt by a human that he exploded himself out of shame. The airstrike thing is also used to solve this annoying puzzle. I thought the solution was really obvious at first. There's a big tower next to 2 explosive transformers. You blow them up, the tower falls and makes a bridge. But that isn't the solution, at least not all of it. They won't explode unless you blow up the wall to the left first. I was honestly stumped for a while because it made no sense that the airstrike wouldn't explode the transformers, so I ended up just launching airstrikes on things that looked like they might be important. This puzzle is just needlessly complicated, and having the incredibly obvious solution locked behind some other pointless steps takes all the joy out of solving it. It's like in a maths exam where you don't get the answer right without showing you're working. It's like, I know the answer, just give me this one. But you know what would make up for an annoying puzzle? Giving me a fucking tank. Oh yeah! You go into this room where there's a tank with an open hatch, the music gets hype as fuck and the aliens are coming in through the door. So you hop in and no. It's just a stationary turret. The machine gun turret is useless because the enemies can just go to the side of the tank where it can't fire. And the missile launcher is once again relegated to blasting a door open. Valve, that is not what missiles are for. They aren't just big keys for big doors. A tank section, even if you didn't drive the tank and just fired missiles while someone else drove it, would have added some much needed variety here. Said tank would have been really helpful in the next part. After you blow the hole in the wall, you're ambushed again. It's a hallway with the enemies on your left and right, and they're all armed with homing bullets that go around corners. The best solution is to blindly throw grenades until it's safe to move. It is not engaging combat design. It's just wasting time. Speaking of wasting time, not long after this you get attacked by the ninjas. Smart enough to turn invisible and ambush you, but not smart enough to avoid trip mines at eye level. Anyway, it was at this point in the game I realized you can just run past enemies. Like, there's no downside to doing so. They can't follow you to the next area, and you'll likely escape with more health and ammo than you would have if you'd fought them. So after Brave Sir Gordon runs away, he has to flood a reactor core to activate some teleporters. Sounds cool, but I still have no idea why I'm doing anything. No clear end goal has been presented to the player or to Gordon. So far you've just been going from room to room until you meet an NPC who tells you to go into the next room. So you turn on the reactor, and I feel there has to be a better way to do this. No nuclear reactor should require you to maneuver past bolts of electricity after you power it up. And then you get to the teleporter tower, and this part was a contender for my least favourite part of any video game ever. So here's the situation. Black Mesa has developed teleportation technology. 2 teleporters can be linked, and you can travel back and forth between them as freely as you like. Black Mesa has built a teleporter tower. It's a long spire with platforms rotating around it at 3 different heights. At each level, there are 3 teleporters in the tower itself. In order to get to one, you must jump off a moving platform into a small gap. In order to ascend the tower, you must start from the lowest level and work your way up. The platforms are not in sync, however. Jumping off one into a teleporter can lead to your death if the revolving platform on the next level isn't under the other side of said teleporter. And you can't see them from within the teleportation chamber. Why on earth would anyone build a teleporter tower like this? It makes no sense. It's a disaster that's just going to get people killed. It got me killed like 50 times. And from a gameplay perspective, it's just frustrating. Each level of the tower has 3 possible teleporters you can enter, but only one will take you higher, and the other 2 will take you to different rooms, and there's no way to know which is which. So not only do you have to partake in more platforming, you have to guess which jumps are the right ones, and time it so you don't break your legs. This is, without a doubt, one of the most frustrating things I've ever had to do in a game. But let's move on, for the next part of the game actually involves some plot and a new gameplay mechanic. After guessing which one was the right teleporter, you find yourself in a lab filled to the rim with ammo and guns. You even get another new gun here that instantly destroys most things. Pretty nifty. A scientist tells you you need to go to Zen and destroy the big bad alien mastermind who's behind the invasion. And then you get the long jump module. How exciting it would be if anyone could actually tell you how to use it. Random scientist number 34 tells you to practice with it, but how? The short answer is that you crouch just before you jump. The long answer is that you are meant to do the tutorial before you play the game. If you're like me, you'll probably see the training room option come up when you start a new game and think you won't need it, because you've played a lot of games, and there'll probably be tutorials in the game anyway. This is incorrect. The tutorial actually tells you all about crouch jumping and long jumping, and also how to pull boxes, which is unnecessary but would have been nice to know. Personally, I think this is bad game design, and not just because I felt like an idiot for missing it. There's no reason to believe that the training room is the only way to learn essential gameplay mechanics before you play the game. Also, there's a good chance you'll forget what the long jump even is, since you don't have to do it until about 10 hours into the game. But why couldn't they just have had a message popped up to say, crouch before you jump to long jump? I could understand if immersion was a big priority and you don't want to be pulling the player out of the game world by using real-world terminology. But then, that scientist could have just told you how to use it. And it's not like the HUD hasn't been used like this before. I mean, you get text with chapter names popping up at the start of each level, and I doubt one line of tutorial text would be any more immersion breaking than that. But then, the long jump is barely used anyway, so I guess it was probably an afterthought. I think once you get to Zen, you only need to use it twice anyway. But let's talk about Zen. At first, I loved it. It really and truly feels like an alien world. It's totally different than anything you've seen up until now. It even feels different to move around thanks to the low gravity, which does not mix well with the already slippery controls. But it starts off strong. It even throws the first proper boss fight at you within minutes. I actually thought this was the final boss at first. He's the first enemy you fight that's given a name. This chapter is Gonarch's lair, so he must be important. But no, not really. He's the most interesting boss fight in the game, but it contributes nothing to the plot. He's forgotten about as soon as he's dead. One thing I definitely won't be forgetting about though is the stingrays. What even is this? I understand that Zen was not built for humans. It was built by creatures that can teleport, so stairs and ladders were probably never invented. But still, why would they place teleporters on floating platforms in the middle of nowhere? And why? Oh, why are there flying stingrays that explode once they've flown a certain distance? Up until now, all the weird shit on Zen was working in service to make you feel like you're somewhere you don't belong, but this is just insane. And from a gameplay perspective, it's even worse. You've already established that platforming in this game isn't great. It's not improved by having to long jump in low gravity between moving platforms that explode. And the worst part is, you can't tell when they're going to blow up without witnessing it firsthand several times. So the first bunch of times you do this, you'll likely end up falling to your death because there's no indication your stingray is about to give up on life. I won't lie, I cheated and no-clipped my way over to the teleporter. This whole thing was just way too frustrating. Not much else happens on Zen for a bit, though you do find other Black Mesa crew. The scientist earlier did say they send people out as part of an observation crew. Strange they all have rocket launchers and machine guns, but that does raise more questions about Black Mesa. I wish they'd gone into more detail about this, because right now the only way I can make sense of it is that Black Mesa has invaded Zen on multiple occasions, and Zen is only now fighting back. Kinda makes Black Mesa and Gordon Freeman the bad guys. It sorta makes me feel like a dick for killing all those aliens who've been relatively peaceful up until today. The next level even has you going into a factory of some kind, where the aliens don't even attack at first. For whatever reason, they only want you dead if you go up to the second floor. Then you blast your way through some more ambushes and eventually make your way to Nylanth. At last, the final boss. Ooh, I struggled with this guy for a while. So you're in this tall chamber with a giant floating baby and 3 big orange crystals on the wall. Immediately my first thought was to destroy the crystals, but my rocket launcher did fuck all to them and the assault rifle wasn't doing much either. So I opened fire on the big boy and he teleports me to a different tall chamber. The only way out is to climb to the top where there's a conveniently located teleporter that'll take me back to Nylanth's room. So again, I open fire and he keeps using the crystals to recharge. Then he teleports me to a different room, where I have to catch a ride in some floating rocks to a conveniently located teleporter on the ceiling. I figured that what I need to do is visit these other rooms and find something that will destroy the crystals. So Nylanth sends me to a third room. This one's slightly more difficult to get out of because you have to use these launch pads to reach the ceiling teleporter, and they only work about a third of the time. Your aim also has to be spot on. But I did it, and let Nylanth teleport me again, but it was to that same room. From here on out, he just keeps bringing me back there, but there was nothing new to find. Nylanth's room does also have these launch pads that can lift you up to higher platforms, so I figured maybe the answer's up there. Like I said before, they don't work most of the time, so using them's a pain in the arse, but I got up eventually and I found nothing. Frustrated, I looked up how to beat the boss. You actually are supposed to destroy those crystals, and apparently 3 shots from the revolver is all it takes. I wouldn't have minded so much if there was even a hint that the crystals were being damaged. Nihilith bleeds when you shoot him. Why couldn't the crystals crack or have bits of it break off? And the fact that that's the only solution means that all that climbing up out of other rooms was just pointless time wasting. Nihilith warping you somewhere else achieves nothing except dragging out the playtime. At least a good ending could make up for it. A bad final boss doesn't always ruin a game, so what happens when you kill him? He dies, obviously, and then Gordon's whisked away to meet G-Man. G-Man congratulates Gordon on his ability to murder innocent aliens and wants him to join his super secret cool guy club so he can go do whatever it is they do. You do actually get a choice here. If you don't join him, you're sent to a room filled with cardboard cutouts of Zen soldiers and you die. But if you do go with him, then you get to see the credits. Cliffhanger endings are cool and all, but generally they're supposed to make sense. Why would Gordon join G-Man? This started off as a quest to just get out of Black Mesa. Gordon only went to Zen because there was literally no other option. I guess technically there still is no other option since not joining G-Man means death, but then why even give us a choice? This ending means nothing. Sure, the world is saved, I guess, but what does joining G-Man achieve? In my opinion, this is a very unsatisfying ending. The aliens only invaded because Black Mesa invaded first. Defeating them doesn't feel all that satisfying either because there's no strong villain. Nihilith is never mentioned and literally only shows up at the very end. I didn't kill him to save the world. I did it because there was literally nothing else to do. You don't even get any answers about Black Mesa or the countless other Gordon Freemans they sent in before. I'm gonna wrap this up now. To put it bluntly, I do not think Half-Life holds up. It has aged like milk in the sun. Most of the game is spent just going forward without any motivation. The controls are imprecise and floaty, and the enemies and encounter design are just flat out dumb. One thing this game does have going for it though is the music. I almost forgot this game had a soundtrack because it's almost never present while playing because if you die the music stops, but it's really good. Here, enjoy some. So now that I've ranted about everyone's favourite game, feel free to blast me in the comments, or be civil and tell me what you thought of my video and of Half-Life. Well done on making it this far into the video, and thank you for watching. I really would like to hear what you think about Half-Life. If you've played it recently for the first time like I have, did it blow you away? Have you loved it forever and still love it? Did you play it years ago, love it, and maybe now you've changed your mind? Let me know down below.